Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, your significant other, children, family, friends, community, and your higher power, this show is for you. Thus, we explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. This show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Dr. Kelly. Now let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started, because we share with you the secret power to intimacy to create a life you love, or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and co-host, Dr. Kelly.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Well, today we have a sizzling show for you guys today. Good morning, Dr. Kelly. We're so sizzling that I'm saying good morning and it's afternoon.
Yeah, sizzling reminds me of a local restaurant has added fajitas to their menu. And it reminds me of when they come to the table all sizzling and hot.
Ooh, yes. And all nice and juicy. Yes. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great today. It's been a busy day, but I like it. It's just enough because I get a break tonight and then I get a weekend.
Yes. The weekend is really great. Yes, for us to just take time and to relax. So do you know what we're going to talk about today?
Yes, I do. Why do you think I showed up?
Okay. Definitely, yes. So, but before we get into the topic of today, which is the difference between sex and making love, I want to let our readers or our people out there know that I do have a book out there. It's called It's All About Sex. It's our fourth book on improving intimacy, and you can find it on Amazon. Check it out. And today we're going to get into some of the deep topics of that book. And also, if you're thinking, hey, I want to experience more intimacy with my partner instead of just talking about it, reading about it, and listening about it, think about going on our Costa Rica retreat in February in the month of love. We only have 2 more spots available. So if you're interested, definitely listen to the commercials. Hit me up in any of the social media or go to vacationcounseling.com. So, Dr. Kelly.
I love that title, vacation counseling, because some people think that counseling is no vacation, right? And some people don't go on vacation. So to merge the two, where people actually, couples get to come together and actually have a vacation and counseling at the same time. It seems like it would take away some of the pain of what people perceived as so difficult, like counseling.
Right, definitely. And when you work on your relationship, being able to get away and not being in the same 4 walls with all the problems, being able to get away, think about it, talk about it, and actually experience some fun activities. It's wonderful. So definitely check that out. So Dr. Kelly, as we mentioned last time, I know you're coming close to the end of your year. And we've talked about a lot of different intimacy things throughout the Yes. So before we get completely into our subject matter, what is your definition of intimacy? I don't know if it's changed since the show or this year, or what do you really think?
I believe that being on the show has impacted my view of intimacy. I never did fully believe that it was just like sexual intimacy. I knew that I had to be a part of it. That it does start with I, right? Intimacy.
Right. Yes.
But when we started to have so many of the different guests on the show, as well as hearing your perspective on what intimacy was, because I know that we're body and we're mind and we're spirit, right? And that there's a Trinity effect, right? And it's always better if you don't just show up with your body. And that's what we're talking about today, right?
Right, exactly.
Is sex or making love? So I would guess, to me, sexual intimacy is when you show up not just with your body. And it's the same way with personal relationships. Like, I don't have sex with my friends, right? But I have intimacy with my friendships. And that's because I show up and I'm fully present. And my motto in life is be where you are. Be where you are. And so be present. Don't be here. I'm not here with you and wishing I'm somewhere else. I'm fully here. Have you been in those conversations with people and they're talking to you, but they're looking beyond your shoulder? Those are real fun and intimate, aren't they? You're at a dinner party or whatever, and people are looking around while you're trying to have a conversation.
Right. You don't feel connected.
Right.
And when I
And
look at
sometimes I just
intimacy,
stop and they
right,
don't even notice. Sometimes they don't even notice that I stopped talking.
right.
I wanted to
And
know, do I have to be here for this conversation? And I think
yes,
sometimes people think that about sexual intimacy. Do I have to be here for this?
right,
Now
right.
that's sex, right?
Yes, yes. And so as we're getting into this topic, the difference between sex and making love. And I see it as, well, intimacy, I see it as a connection. And sometimes when people are having sex, it's just the bodies. There's no
Yeah.
emotional connection. And I'm not saying that's wrong. And I'm not saying it's right, but there is a difference. And I think for many people, especially their first time of being young in the teens and of course in the 20s, there's a lot of sex and people get
Yeah.
that confused.
Yeah. In fact, they use another word for it,
Hookups?
the F word.
Oh, okay, the F word.
And
Yes.
they'll even say you want to, right?
Right,
And some people do want to,
right.
right?
Mhm.
There's a difference. And I guess sometimes it'd be like, hey, do you just want to have sex? If it's a sexual release and it's sex, but do you believe, and this is where I want to ask you, because you're a certified sex therapist and you have a number of credentials in that area. And while I have helped people with sexual intimacy, it hasn't been my forte. Um, do you believe that it's like some people just okay? Do you believe that people make love every time they make love or have sex? Do you believe that? I mean,
No,
your view on that, because I feel like I want to know what you think on this.
right,
Related, yeah,
right. Not all couples come together and make love, okay?
right.
Some couples just hook up for friends with benefits and all that kind of stuff. Okay, that's one part. And then I don't believe that not all couples, even that are married, are making love.
So
Sometimes
what is the difference between sex and making love?
I would see it as in the sense of that connection of intimacy. So if you're, let's say you're married and you're having sex with your partner, and maybe you're just having sex because you feel like your partner just needs a release, but you're like kind of checked out. You're just laying there or you're doing the motions, but you don't feel connected. Yes. Or even some people have sex and they don't even like each other.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think that's making love. Because I guess we should go back and define what love is.
Love is patient. Love is, they're like, many of our listeners maybe were like, well, they read 1 Corinthians 13. You might not have known that it was 1 Corinthians 13 at your
Right.
wedding or
Right.
your ceremony. And they said they defined what love is.
Mm-hmm.
Love is patient. There's many things that love is. From that standpoint, the spiritual standpoint, but for those listeners that are not spiritual, but they're like, they would define love as what? They would define love as a feeling and an emotion, not as an action, but an emotion, perhaps. Or they might say, I feel loved when somebody brings me coffee or thinks of me or whatever their love language is per se, right? The book on the 5 love languages. So
you just made an excellent point in reference that love is an emotion, but more importantly, it is an action.
Mm-hmm.
So it is that giving, that receiving, that sacrificing. It's an action. And when you're, let's say, going back to the sex and making love, when you're just having sex, you're not many times, maybe even sometimes giving. You're just so focused on a release.
Yeah, your own needs.
Your own needs.
Those are fun lovers, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yes. But I do think sometimes it takes practice and it takes knowledge of it. I mean, how many parents actually sit down and talk to their kids about the difference between sex and making love and how to make sure your partner is satisfied and all that kind of stuff? I mean, did your parents do that? Did your mom say
We
no?
found for as far as that goes, we found a little book that I still remember traumatized me. We found a little book in their bedroom. It was a purple book and it was about sex. And it really was a book on how to educate people on what sex was, but they never did show us that book. We found it. And it was truly a book on how to communicate to your kids about sex, but they never did that. But we know that they shut their door and that they were doing something together in there.
Yes.
No conversation. What about you?
Yes. Oh, no. Actually grew up in a very Christian Catholic based family. So it was not, taught to me at all. And so what it's through for most of us is through experience of trying to figure it out and sometimes educating ourselves. So anyway, if you're out there and you're thinking, well, I have some questions about sex and or what's the difference between sex and making love, or how do I know which one I'm doing? Give us a call at 1-888-627-6008. And we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to dig deeper into sex and making love and at the different stages of life.
Are you wanting a vacation in paradise? A vacation to rekindle the passion? A vacation without the kids? A vacation where you can learn how to communicate, where you and your partner actually hear each other and gain insight? If so, vacation counseling is your next vacation. Dr. April Brown has created vacation counseling in Southwest Florida as a perfect option for you and your partner. Our retreats are one couple at a time. We have a variety of packages available to choose from, including virtual couples retreats. If you and your partner are interested in the vacation counseling, please visit us at vacationcounseling.com for more information on pricing and packages. Also, follow us on Instagram and Facebook. To keep track of the latest news, stories, activities, or coupons on vacation counseling and Dr. April's other services, we encourage you to sign up to receive a monthly newsletter called Intimate Connections at draprilbrown.com. Remember, if you and your partner are struggling with communication and intimacy, and you all are looking for a retreat to connect, vacation counseling can be your next vacation in Southwest Florida.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Dr. Kelly and I have been talking about sex and making love and the difference. So, Dr. Kelly, have you heard in the dating world, especially when people are in their 20s, that sometimes if you go on a date 3 to 4 times, then you're supposed to put out? Have you ever heard that before?
I heard it doesn't even take that long to get to the 4th date. Sometimes that's where the whole thing, where going Dutch is, that if they don't pay, then you don't have to put out. Did you know that? That was part of the perception of going Dutch, meaning they pick up the bill. If they pick up the bill, then you're supposed to, there's some inference that you should be doing something else, that you should pick something up.
Wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have heard about that. Yeah,
Yes.
Are you familiar with the term going Dutch?
Yes, yes, but I didn't know that if someone picked up the check, then, or
There's
if they didn't.
inference.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Be careful.
Yes. So this puts a lot of pressure on people, especially young people who are like, I want to make a good impression. I think I like this person.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm not sure. Do I just go and go for it? Or I want to have more of a connection.
There used to be, it's kind of flipped around a little bit. There was always the other, remember we have stereotypes, right? The stereotype of men is that they're the ones that want to have the sex, right?
Right.
And then the woman has to be like, well, I want to wait till the 3rd date, or I want to wait to get to know you, or, whatever. Well, it's flipped around. I've actually heard from some young men and men that say, they just want to hook up and have sex, and I want to get to know them. Which, that's just sex, right? But how
Right.
can you make love to somebody that you just met? That's the real question. Can you make
Right.
love to somebody you just met? What do you think? I think the answer is no, but we can believe differently. What do you think? I don't think I can make love to somebody I just met.
No, I do think it takes time, but it also, how can I put it? That time, whether it is time, of course, weeks and all that kind of time, or whether also if you go through something intense together, because then you're able to see how that person reacts. And sometimes that intensity of going through a struggle together can create people to connect better.
Oh yeah, like the foxhole, the people that are in the war, they're in the same foxhole hiding out from the shrapnel, and people are coming after them with guns trying to kill them, and they jump in the same foxhole. And they're called foxhole buddies because they
Right.
went through that together fighting for their life. And it doesn't even take more than one time with somebody coming
Mm-hmm.
after you. And then the same thing, having that struggle because you were in the same car or you were in the same event, and you feel closer to them. So yeah, that means that we have to have a period of time that we go through in order to have struggles, because you're not gonna have those on your first date.
Right. In most cases, but in some.
I would hope not.
Yeah. So is it okay that when you're with your partner, especially since we're just talking about new relationships, to
Mhm.
say, this person has asked me, well, I'm not sure if I want to have sex. Maybe I want to make love to you. So maybe we need to wait. What do
Yeah.
you, yeah. Have you ever said that to someone, when they've asked, in some aspect?
I'll tell you, I haven't said that, but I know one time when I had a relative that had an accident, a motorcycle accident, and they were out of state in a hospital, and I called to send flowers. And so I got the girlfriend, and they said,
Right.
the girlfriend told me, he doesn't like flowers. Right.
Right.
And I said, I've seen him hold a flower closer to his chest than any woman. What's his room number? And then I wanted to, and Dr. April, I came this close to saying it. And you think you know him, you only know his body. See, because you see, lots of people
Yes.
think that they know somebody, but that
Right.
means, and you know his body, you've had sex with them like X number of times. But if you
Right.
don't know that he likes flowers, we have a bigger problem. You
Right.
ought to be able to know more intimate things about people than just their body and what turns them on, quote unquote,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So to me, that's what intimacy is knowing not just their body, but knowing them and other things that they enjoy and love outside of the bedroom.
Right. Because if you just know their body, after a while, the sex does become boring because it's just
Yeah.
the same thing. But when you start to connect emotionally, and emotions change, how deeply you feel about someone, or you connect with their intellectual mind or their activities, it deepens that connection and it adds flavor to it.
Oh, yes. You
Yes.
help people find the flavor in their relationships and in their lovemaking. Do you have
Mhm.
people sometimes that come intimidated, and whether it's the male or the female or either one, and says, I don't know how to communicate what I want.
Right.
I'd like to make love, but I don't know how to communicate what I want. I think that there's an element of that. There must be, right?
Right. Yeah. And I've had quite a few people ask about, how do I talk to my partner about that? And one of the things that I utilize, I don't know if you've ever heard, it's called the sexual tasting menu. Have you ever heard that before?
I have heard of that. Yes. Is
Oh,
that the
okay.
peach element? The
No,
peach
not the peach
example?
element. No, that's something else. No, the sex tasting menu It's looking at basically sexual intimacy as a full-blown menu of what you like. So you start off with the ambiance. Like, what smells do you like? Is it lavender? Is it lemongrass? What flowers do you like? Magnolias or roses? What's that? Okay. Then the second part, the next part
I'm seeing.
is the appetizers. Okay. So you write down the appetizers that
That's
you
the
like.
foreplay? Is that the foreplay?
Exactly.
The appetite?
Yes.
Right
Yes,
on. Now I'm
exactly.
getting visual.
Yes, yeah. Whether you like a feet massage, the nibbling of the nipples or the ear, whatever the case is that you like. And then it's the full-blown meal, which is, of course, intercourse, the actual intercourse. And then it's actually, after that comes the dessert. Yes, and you guys know what dessert is, right?
On. I think
Yes.
some people think maybe your menu is a little mixed up. Some of you think you're going to have your cake before you have your appetizer, and you're trying to make love without foreplay. That's not going to work. That's not going to work.
Right. Because
I like that menu idea.
Yes.
Now I want onion rings.
Yes. So if you're talking with your partner, you can, bring it up that way. So let's talk about it as a menu. What do you like here? What do you like there? It's really good to sit there and talk about it because we're all different, and not every female's the same and not every male's the same. So it's really good. And going on to that topic from what you just were talking about, men and women are different sexually. And so that foreplay, like you said, it's extremely important. And
I want to pause for a moment, and I want to talk about this, and I want people to listen up, because kissing is a lost art, and kissing is foreplay. And it can happen not only just foreplay, but throughout the lovemaking.
Yes.
Right? You cannot lose that art of the thing that brought you together, the thing that was stimulating at first. And I am shocked at how many people give up kissing. Maybe it's because I'm French. I don't know. But I just honestly can't get over how many people stop kissing.
Right. And in some places where they're just having sex because they want to release, or there's group sex, or I deal with a lot of different things, whether the swingers or whatever the case may be. Many times in those situations, the people are not kissing.
They're not allowed to. That's one of the rules.
Could be one of the rules, but it's so intimate. It's just sex.
You know what I'm saying? It's not intimate, so therefore kissing is intimate.
Right. But when you're making love, like you were stating, kissing should be a part of it, and I challenge couples to do, a 90-second kiss, that so they can, be together in that aspect.
I'm like, not only do I want onion rings, I want a kiss.
Yes.
Boy, oh boy. But 90 seconds for some people are like 90 seconds because they will go to that peck on the lips. For some people, they won't cut it.
Right.
I know I'm hoping I'm not going off topic too much, but this is you are an expert in this area, truly. And I think that there's maybe some people that are listening and they would like some suggestions on foreplay. I have another question that came in from an audience member, but I'm going to hold off on that. And I will get to you, Betsy. But can you give us some suggestions for foreplay?
Okay. So with foreplay, for couples out there listening, and especially for men who are in heterosexual relationships, most women's body take about 20 minutes to warm up. Men can pop up like that. So it's really important to warm up the body, because when you warm up the body, that's when the woman becomes more relaxed, more comfortable, and she's able to express herself more. So foreplay is really important. But when you look at foreplay, I don't want you to look at it like, oh my God, it's so stressful. Just look at it as you're on the playground. Two people on the playground. Yes, learning to just play with each other's bodies, whether it is kissing the neck, playing with the nipples, massaging or kissing balls, whatever the foreplay is, whether it's massaging is really good. That warms people up also. Yeah, whether for a lot of people, they enjoy oral sex, which is great too. Yes, that's just with appetizer, that prepares you. You know how you or at a restaurant and you have an appetizer and even maybe an appetizer cocktail, and that opens up
Oh, yeah.
your appetite. Yes.
Yeah, and then they cleanse the palate between. Well, what's menu have you had? Have you been to a meal where you've had like a 5-course meal, or how many courses have you had the most in your life?
Most I have had was 7 courses.
7 courses? Was that at a
Yes.
wedding?
No. It was actually a European person that I was celebrating their birthday for. The Europeans do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I
Yes.
know. They eat for 3 hours. Let's
Oh,
start
yes.
thinking about this menu like a 7-course or even a 5-course meal instead of like no appetizers. And you just get to the entree. You have your steak and you don't even get dessert.
Right. And the good thing about
European.
Yeah, the good thing is as you get older, in the sense of as a relationship or a couple, you're able to take your time. You know how sometimes in the beginning, when you're young, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to get caught. So you're doing sex in a car, in the backseat of a car, real quick. Yes. But it's so much more better when you're making love and you're taking the whole night. Yeah, I mean, have you ever had that experience where it's 3-4 hours and you guys are still going at it?
You
Yes.
can't get enough of one another. It's making love.
Right.
Sex would also infer that it's rushed, because I would think when I think of sex, it's like if it's about a release, anybody can do that, which comes to Betsy's question. And Betsy has asked, you mentioned that the entree is intercourse. What if we only have oral sex?
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Fine. If you have oral sex and you're able to fully have orgasms, then that's fine. That can be the entree. Yeah. As you guys know, have you had appetizers and you're like, wow, you had so many appetizers, I don't even need the meal. I don't even. So that is.
Yeah, sometimes I just have appetizers as the meal.
Yes. Yeah, so that is fine, definitely. Yes.
That's a great question, Betsy, truly.
Yes. And in that question, before she asked, and I was just thinking, sometimes for some, I've seen the experience of young men who get so excited, they're like, oh my gosh, I just so much want her. And they feel like, I don't know if you heard it, that, oh my gosh, if I just don't penetrate her and have this orgasm right now, my balls are going to turn blue and fall off. Well, in reality, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, your balls are not going to fall off.
Yes.
Any more than her nipples will.
Yes. And it's okay if you're a guy and you're
or his.
Yes, and you're in the system and you're having fun with your partner. And what happens if you lose your erection? That's okay, guys. It will come back up. You continue to play. Do not rush it, because what happens is if you rush it and you go in and you're like, whew, then it's done and over, and your woman isn't satisfied. And I don't know about you, Dr. Kelly, and even on myself, I think young women, how can I put it? We're not very expressive of what we like and what we don't like. And I think women don't find their voices maybe until later in their 20s or early 30s. I don't know. I didn't have a voice.
Quite honestly, some people never find it.
Right.
And yes, whether it's a woman or a man, because if a man says what he wants And it's like, for example, I had, well, this is years ago, but I had a client that it was a man, and he said on a date that he wanted to cuddle. And he said that word and it turned her off because, and so, and
Right.
she made fun of him because he said, I want to cuddle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow,
Right.
what is that? Right. So
Right.
then that really messed him up. Like that made him think, wow, I mean, I really do just want to just cuddle. I don't want to have sex right now. What's wrong with you? You don't want to have sex right now.
Right.
Uh,
And there's some people who can, if you're really connected with your partner, where you can even just cuddle or not even actually touch one another and still actually have an orgasm. Because the orgasm actually starts up here in the brain.
yes, your mind is the biggest sex organ that you have.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I heard, I can't remember, I think it was Dr. Dow Pursley, but from Love Life Marriage and Family Center. But anyway, maybe it was Ed Wheat, but he said, foreplay starts at breakfast.
Exactly.
And that's when your kindness, this is for married couples or partners and people that are living together, how you start your morning, that breakfast. Think of that like your appetizer. How you treat one another at breakfast is how you will treat one another at night. How you leave one another for the day is how your night will go. So kindness does matter.
Right.
Because
And
some
even
people, go ahead.
go on. Oh, go
No,
ahead.
I like this. We're so excited. I love this overlap. I don't call it interrupting. It's overlapping. Please continue.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, even at breakfast, that what we were talking about earlier, that kissing, don't just leave the house. Grab her or grab him or grab each other, kiss, make out a little bit, and then leave.
I told the guy I said, you push her in the pantry and you say, I'll be back for you. And he was like, what? I said,
Yes.
Trust me, she'll like it.
Yes.
He said, that pantry thing worked out, doctor.
Yes.
Take some risks, right?
Definitely. Yes. Well, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to talk about the risks and maybe even toys in the sense of action in the bedroom. We'll be back in a moment.
Renew your connection and your love in beautiful Costa Rica. February 27th through March 3rd, 2022. We'll make sure it happens. Vacation Counseling Intimate Couples Retreat. Your next vacation. Enroll now at vacationcounseling.com.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. So we have been talking about what's the difference between sex and making love. And I want to now go into the topic of toys. Yes. Yes. Using toys in the bedroom.
I remember when the toy parties first started, I had a friend that said, oh yeah, I'm going to a toy party tonight. And I really thought it was like, what? It's only June. Why are you going to a toy party? Because I thought it was for Christmas and the kids.
Yeah, there's some couples that says, oh my gosh, I cannot use a toy. Because let's say, and I've seen this in more heterosexual couples, where a person feels like, oh my gosh, if there is a vibrator, that I have to compete with that. In reality, that is not at all what it should be.
It's been like, especially what kind of toys and what they look like. It's like, I'm sure that some people would be intimidated, but it doesn't mean you're inadequate. There is such a fear of inadequacy on both genders.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I don't know if you know that most females cannot have orgasm through penetration of a man in a traditional position. It's almost 80% of women cannot have a full orgasm that way. So whether they utilize oral sex, which is great, or vibrators or dildos, or whatever the case may be, those things help bring more pleasure and excitement. And just like I said earlier, when we were talking about making love, it's like a playground. And on the playground, there's toys.
What was your favorite playground toy? Was it a monkey bar or the teeter-totter? I hated the teeter-totter.
Oh, well, I actually went to uh, one of my best friends, or she had a 50th birthday party,
Mhm.
and she had different things there. And there was actually a woman there out in Atlanta where they sell a lot of sexual stuff. And one of the favorite toys, as we're talking about, and it's probably one of my favorite toys anyway, is swings.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Do you know what a swing is?
Oh, you mean a sex swing?
Yes, that's a sex swing, or yes.
Does it have a hole in it?
No, well,
I mean,
not
I know what they
necessarily.
are. They're for sex and stuff. And but no, listen, I'm one of those conservative people that might need to be sold on some of this stuff. So
Yes.
just think of me
Yes.
as a virgin, if you will. So what define a sex swing? And I'm being serious. You know me, Dr. Abram. Some people might
Yes.
think I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not. Please communicate, because there are those of us that do not know.
Right.
I
Well,
never
just
saw
like,
one.
oh, you've never seen one. Okay. So just like when you were little, you had these swings that kind of make you feel like you're flying,
Oh,
you know,
the jumping one.
the jumping one, but also the ones that push you in the air that almost make you feel like you're flying, like I don't have this gravity of the ground.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
I've been at
Okay.
that ride at the fair.
Yes. Yes.
And it
Yes.
goes around in a circle. Yeah.
Right. Right. So there's sex toys or sex swings that you can lash onto doors that can help you and your partner have that same experience, where it's like you're not grounded on the floor. So it brings in that excitement, almost kind of like a mini roller coaster kind of thing. Yeah, where you can swing. Yes.
That gives a whole new visual to swingers.
Yes, it does.
And you do this naked?
Oh, well, yeah, if you're going to utilize it naked or with lingerie or whatever.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
you don't necessarily have to be naked. I mean, like I said, people can have orgasms even without body parts. Just,
Right.
totally touching. But just that connection of being so close to someone, and that person sees you and has your back.
Wow, that sounds like there's a lot of trust in this.
Yes,
I mean,
definitely.
you're not going to, like, on a first date say, hey, do you want to come to my playground? Or maybe you do.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, everybody, the other part, good thing that we can talk about is different people's sex drive.
Yeah, and what you do when the libido is different. That has, that's come up in my therapy with different couples, that what to do when specifically if her husband or partner does not initiate sex, she feels like she's not attracted. That's
Mhm.
been very frequent. That's come up in counseling quite a bit. And some people just don't initiate sex, or they have a different libido than you. So what do you do? For
Right.
that? You suggest?
Right. Well, it's a lot of different things. I think a lot of men these days are wanting their partners to initiate. I don't know if back in the 40s they had that. Men always did the initiating. Yes. And so now many women feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to initiate, or I don't even know what to say. This wasn't something my mama taught me. How do you go about doing that? And what your partner is really saying is they want to feel needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to feel that you desire them. And it doesn't have to be a full blown, got to do the lingerie and, jump from the ceiling. Sometimes it's just a simple touch. Sometimes it's just a simple whispering in the ear, I want to spend time with you tonight. Yeah, there's very different ways. And for some people who cannot vocalize it, we've worked on different, putting out a teddy bear, and a teddy bear means I'm into it.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. But one of the things I do want to say, that if your partner is asking you for intimacy, And let's say for some reason, whether you have a stomach ache or whatever the case may be, you just feel like you cannot fully go there with your partner. Don't just say no, because that is
Yeah.
like a rejection.
Well, if your partner puts a teddy bear on the bed, that means they want it. And then what are you going to go do? You're going to like go pull the stuffing out and say no? It'd be like having a Barbie doll on the bed. And if you don't want to have sex, just take her head off.
Yes.
I mean,
but that's what people feel like, that their hearts have been taken away. Yes.
You know,
So
I
they
heard
say,
this is so funny. I
yes.
heard this years ago when I was getting over 20 years ago. I was getting my master's in counseling, and I heard the story of a couple that went for counseling and to spice up their sex life, and the true story. And then they said, you need to initiate it. You need to let him know that you want it. So she came into the garage after, bringing home groceries, and she sees her husband under the car, and he was changing the oil or something. He was on one of those little rolly things. She reached down, she grabbed his zipper, and she goes, zip, zip, zip. I'll see you in the bedroom. And the guy rolled out, and it was the next door neighbor guy. He was helping change the oil in the car. True story. But the thing is that she was like taking some risks. She was saying,
right.
And of course she was appalled, and oh my word, you can imagine, right?
Yes.
What anybody thought, but take some risks. You're communicating, you're being creative, you're being playful.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear the rest of the story, but I hope that didn't shut her down,
Right, definitely. Yeah. And then for those who are listening, they're like, well, do I have to have sex if my partner wants it? Should I just lay there and fake it? No. What I'm saying to you is, if your partner wants to be intimate with you and for some reason you can't, you really should communicate at another time. Communicate a postponed date. Like, hey, we can do it XYZ. I think that's really important. But to just lay there and fake it, that is like, yes, it's.
So those are two questions that I'm going to ask you as the sex expert here for Bringing Intimacy Back show, and all of your certification, all of the counseling, the many couples you have helped. What is a frequency? Is there a frequency? Like for some people, they do only have sex once a month. What is a typical frequency? Is it change with age, or because some men or women might be listening to this and say, I'll be lucky if I have sex even once this month. And if I initiate it, there's nothing. It's like completely, what's that called? Dead silence.
Right. Right. Of course, it depends on everyone's lifestyle, but a good 2 to 3 times a week is great. Mm-hmm. It's that, that connection. Yes. But it's something, and I'm saying that statistic out, but I want to say more importantly, something that as a couple, you guys should discuss. It shouldn't just be, well, Dr. April says we need to be doing it 2 to 3 times. And maybe you guys have, 3 little kids running around and that can't happen. But it's something you need to discuss, because if it's not discussed and one person has a higher, one person has a lower, it becomes a conflict between the couples. So that is just really important to have that discussion.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of the 3 little kids, I almost said 3 little pigs, but 3 little, yes. 3 little kids, and the couple saying, boy, so much for foreplay. I mean, we might have 3 to 5 minutes to have sex, period, let alone any foreplay. Dr. April, what would you say to them?
Right. And maybe you only have 3 to 5 minutes for sex, to the sexual intimacy. But as we started this show off earlier, and we talked about there's many different forms of intimacy. There is those forms of communication, that emotional stuff, that even the stuff of taking showers together. Do you know how intimate that is? And many times, I mean, you can do a lot of things in the shower while you're soaping up, so you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. That saves time.
Yes, it does. Well, that's some great advice. And what,
yes.
As we round to the bend towards the end of our time together, what advice would you give to couples that are saying we can't do 2 to 3 times a week? We used to, and they hear that and they're like, wow, we're not even doing that anymore. Like, and they're saying, I miss that.
Okay. If you're out there and you're listening and you're like, wow, we're not even doing that, and you're missing it. First thing I would say is to communicate that to your partner. Let me say that when you communicate it to your partner, it's not something that you communicate in the bedroom. This is a discussion that requires some sensitivity. So it's how you bring it up. Saying, you know what, you never touch me anymore. You're always looking at porn, or we're not connected. It's this and that. That can come off very aggressive, very accusatory, and puts this wall. But many times, if you would just say, you know what, I miss you. I miss those touches. I miss holding you in my arm. I would like for us to connect like that some more. Start off with those I statements. Talk about I feel, I need, I want. That is so critical in expressing your needs on an intimate level.
That's awesome. And Dr. April's book, fourth book is coming out, and it is called It's All About Sex. But for those of you that are listening and you want to at least get the first book, we'll offer that to you free. Just sign up for the newsletter at bringingintimacyback.com. And it was great in our morning meeting this morning, hearing about how well Bringing Intimacy Back show is doing on Apple Podcasts. Some of you may be listening to us on Apple. We're grateful for that. But we have upcoming shows do you want to tell them about the upcoming shows, or do you want me to do that?
Oh, no. Well, the next one on November 25th is one of our highest shows that we've had. And it was actually a show where, how can I put it? I really got to understand or get to see a glimpse. Let's just say I just saw a glimpse. I'm learning to understand her more, of Dr. Kelly's beautiful sense of humor. So this one is on friendship and culture intimacy with Jenny Big Crow, which I think it's going to be amazing in that aspect. Yes. Do you want to talk a little bit about that show?
Well, what I liked about remember earlier in the show today, we were talking about how people, when they go through a difficult time, they become closer when they have that struggle. Well, that's how I became friends with Jenny Big Crow, because it was during hurricane, and it was like years ago. I can't remember even which hurricane. And she was from South Dakota, the plains of South Dakota. It was her first hurricane.
Right.
And she was like, and I didn't even know her. And I knew a family member, and I said, hey, come on over from your coast to mine. You can stay, bring your dogs, bring your animals, bring your children, bring your neighbors. You can be safe here. And so that's what she did. She came over, and that's how I got to know her, through that time. And so Jenny Big Crow is an Oglala Lakota Sioux Indian from Pine Ridge Reservation, and it's on cultural intimacy and how two different cultures can become friends. And so That's going to be happening next week. And then after that, we have Susan Falter with Self-Care for Extremely Busy Women. And then on December 9th, we have Jerry Nair, author of Erasing the Margin, on eye contact, voices, and hugs.
Yes, awesome. Yes. Yeah, so we have some good shows coming up in December, which is always, December is a month where intimacy comes to the level of making sure we give. I think that's what the next 6 weeks is about giving, to your loved ones, through being thankful for everything that they've been provided in our lives, but also seeing the people and, giving gifts, and gifts can definitely be experiences. So, yes.
Yes. And the best gift is yourself.
Exactly. Yes. So any of those people that are out there listening, make sure that during the holiday season, you take time for yourself. You slow it down, because many of us are just running around trying to drop kids off to soccer, basketball, doing homework, cooking, running businesses. Yeah.
Oh, right
to
on.
slow
And
it-
Christmas. And speaking of toys, don't forget to get your batteries. And now a word from our sponsor. I won't say the name.
Yeah.
Do we have to pay if we say the name of a company or something? Like,
Not that I know
hell
of.
no, they should pay us. Duracell.
Exactly. Exactly.
It was nice spending time with you.
It was same here. And thank you so much. And this has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real.